Yeah, 762 Slim. You want to debate? My team harder than yours. We come harder. No competition like no I in my team. No, are they wishful thinking or is it a nice dream? And we can see him coming, no need for high beam. Decision making, change a player, just do the right thing. Wasn't with me in the gym, so how can you contest? On the hilltop and ran many miles to be the best. Don't know what team I'm on, but I'm like, how you see my chest?
Welcome to Post Point with your host, Winton McCullough. Hey, it's time to talk some sports, y'all. I'm glad you decided to talk some sports with me. Now check it. The NFL draft starts on April the 25th. So we'll be talking the NFL draft. And I'm feeling like Randy Watson. And I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Let me stop. I don't want to compare these collegiate athletes, soon to be professionals, to children, but they are the future. And the way I'm seeing things and the prospects I'm highlighting, I see things falling the way I see it. So I'm really feeling like Kanye. And I'm living in the future, so my presence is the past. Let that marinate. And let's start the show.
Decision making, change a player, just do the right thing. Wasn't with me in the gym, so how can you contest?
If I fail, if I succeed, you can't take away my dignity. Because the greatest love of all inside of me, yeah. Sexy chocolate. Sexy chocolate.
That boy can sing.
You must be crazy.
He good.
You must be crazy.
On today's Flashpoint, we're talking the NFL draft. The 2010 draft class is highly underrated. When you talk about draft classes, two gets mentioned the most. The 1983 draft class with John Elway, Dan Marino, and running back Eric Dickerson, and the 2018 draft class with Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and running back Saquon Barkley. Now, of course, these are the highlights. There was more talent in these drafts, but the 2010 draft class is special. I followed this draft class very closely because the Buccaneers blew their team up in 2009. And the 2010 draft class is what they was going to use to rebuild the franchise. Everyone knew coming into this draft that it was going to be deep and you could get talent in late rounds. And being that we're in 2025, we have a large enough sample size to know that this draft class lived up to the hype. I'm about to run some names down, so bear with me. Ndamukong Suh, Gerald McCoy, Trent Williams, Eric Berry, Russell Okung, Joe Hayden, Brandon Graham, Earl Thomas, Jason Pierre-Paul, Derek Morgan, Marquise Pouncey, Kareem Jackson, Demaryius Thomas, Brian Bulaga, Dez Bryant, Devin McCourty, Rob Gronkowski, Linval Joseph, Emmanuel Sanders, Navarro Bowman, Jimmy Graham, Everson Griffin, Aaron Hernandez, Geno Atkins, Cam Chancellor, Greg Hardy, and Antonio Brown. In my opinion, this draft class does not get the respect it deserves because 18 of the players that I named live in the trenches. We all know a lot of guys in the trenches do not get the recognition they deserve. But we also know that NFL football games are won and lost in the trenches. Now, I will have to dedicate a whole episode to break down all of these guys. But just to look at a few, Cam Chancellor, the enforcer of a historically great defense, the Legion of Boom, drafted in the 5th round. And then after Tom Brady and Brock Purdy, Antonio Brown is probably the greatest value pick in NFL draft history, being drafted in the 6th round. There is at least 9 Hall of Famers on this list. I did not put Antonio Brown in that number, so it could be 10. I have him as a Hall of Famer, but we all know it's complicated with Brown. There's also 13 Super Bowl champions in this draft class, and with Gronk, the amount of rings multiplied. This draft class was huge in shaping the landscape of the NFL in the 2010s. Yet, when people talk about historically great draft classes, no one brings up the 2010 draft class. It's probably because I did not mention one quarterback. Yet, the facts have been laid out. The talent is through the roof, and this draft class should be talked about more, making the 2010 draft class the flashpoint hero of the day.
Win the championship and why not go to Disneyland? We can change our plans like we can go and spend some bands. Yep. I'm a team player, so a loser's not a fan. No. The holiday season, watching sports with my fans.
Alright, so today on Hit 'em Up, we're going to be highlighting some draft prospects. Now, I'm going to go in depth on Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, and Shedeur Sanders because I watched those guys play this year. There are some other guys that I followed during the draft process, the combine. I liked their numbers, and I went back and watched some of their tape. And Jihad Campbell, James Pierce Jr., Mason Graham, and Abdul Carter. So I'll be speaking on those guys, but I won't go in depth on them. All right, here we go. Cam Ward seems to be everyone's number one pick for good reason. One, the Titans need a quarterback. There are Will Levis supporters out there, but I'm sorry, he ain't it. There is a large enough sample size to know the lights are too bright for this kid right now. Does that mean he would never develop into a starting quarterback in the NFL? No. But when you are in the position the Titans are in, and after 2 years, the guy you got at quarterback is still a project, and you have a chance to get better at the position, then you got to take that chance. So who is Cam Ward? My player comparison is Dante Culpepper. Big arm, very good mobility. Players with these characteristics have the ability to make spectacular plays. Many experts have been comparing him to Pat Mahomes. Now they preface their statements when they give this comparison, saying stuff like, I'm not saying he's Pat Mahomes, I'm saying he has Pat Mahomes-like traits. Throwing from different platforms, the strong arm, and the baseball background. I don't see it really because of the swag this dude played with, in which all of those characteristics, the different platforms, the strong arms, and the baseball background, all of those are characteristics of Dante Culpepper. But when it comes to my comparison, Ward plays with that swagger that Culpepper played with as well. Culpepper was cold on the football field. He played with a certain swagger and intensity that defined who he was as a quarterback, on top of the bag he had. And think about these kinds of players is they will take chances because of their beliefs and their talent. The better of these types of players keeps the mistakes to the minimum, but they are very spectacular, and that's who Cam Ward is. The next guy we're going to highlight is Shedeur Sanders. His daddy calls him grown, I'ma call him grown. In my opinion, the best pure quarterback in the draft. While Cam Ward is more spectacular, Shedeur Sanders has the intangibles you want in a quarterback. My player comp for him is Matt Ryan mixed with a little bit of Eli Manning. Matt Ryan because Shedeur is a high-level processor. A guy who knows what the defense is going to do pre-snap. He gets the offense to the right play. Then he knows how to go through his progressions and find the open man. I said a little of Eli Manning because of his fearlessness in the pocket. There are some guys that are not fazed by a pass rush. They can take a beating and get back up and then function at a high level as a quarterback. They don't see ghosts. And when they have pass rushers closing in for the kill, they are able to stand tall in the pocket and still throw at a high level. Shedeur is one of those guys that you know on game day, they did everything and more a player is supposed to do leading up to the game when it comes to preparation. I don't think this world has seen the best of Shedeur, mainly because of the protection and continuity. Sanders had to become comfortable being uncomfortable in the pocket, which is very hard for a pocket quarterback to do. I hate to do this to the Colorado Buffaloes offensive linemen because of well-off media. I'm well acquainted with the work they put in, but they could not protect Sanders. As a whole, they do have a stud on that offensive line. For a guy who is not known for his mobility, Sanders was running for his life just about every game as a Buck, yet he was still an effective thrower of the football. A lot of these so-called experts need to look at Sanders' Jackson State tape. Now I know it's less of competition, but you were able to see how he operates with good blocking, especially that 2023 national title game that Jackson State lost. They could not stop a nosebleed in that game, but it went overtime, and Sanders was spectacular. You really saw why some people say he has a little Tom Brady in him when you watch that game. He also had 3 offensive coordinators during his career in college, and he was still able to operate each offense at a high level. If Sanders get above average blocking, he will be a dominant quarterback. I think Sanders does not get past the Cleveland Browns. When I talk about Abdul Carter, you'll get my point. I know all the chatter out there about Shedeur Sanders, and I've seen all the different mock drafts, but in my opinion, Cleveland makes the right choice, and Sanders does not go past pick 2. Let's talk about Travis Hunter. This man will be the next guy in those Dos Equis commercials, because this dude is very interesting. A freak athlete. I would not call him a superior athlete, but this dude has a natural ability to know how to use his athleticism to his advantage. I remember this mentor of mine, Jeremy Elam. This dude was also a freak athlete. When we played football, there was no way I was catching this dude. But he would let me get close in pursuit and then explode upfield. Then he would slow down. That would get real annoying because he'll do that all the way to the end zone. But Travis does this against other freak athletes, which is impressive. But it's also why his speed is not always on display. Which is a way casual fans evaluate athleticism in football. But it's brilliant how he uses his speed, utilizing surgical bursts. I want to go a different route with Travis Hunter comparison. I'm comparing him to a boxer, Floyd Money Mayweather. When you get an athlete who is naturally gifted, but they put in the work as an athlete who is not gifted at all, you get something special. The Floyd comparison comes from him being an athlete who puts in the work and doing something in his sport that is unheard of. In a fight game, you don't want to leave who wins and who loses up to the judges. But Floyd's game plan is for a fight to be called by the judges. He could do that because he puts in the work to outwork everybody else. The proof is in the pudding. You know, there are other things like the fact that you can't hit him, but that all goes back to the work. Well, if Travis Hunter says he can play both defensive back and wide receiver at the same time, well, he puts in the work to do it and has the ability to do it. Just check his mindset when asked about what it would be like to play both ways full-time in the NFL.
I mean, nobody have done it, but I feel like I'll put my body through a lot. I do a lot of treatment. People don't get to see that part when I do for my body to make sure I'm 100% each game, but I feel like I can do it because nobody have done it, and I know I can do it. I did it at college level, which the game is, you know, we rarely get breaks, and it's a lot more breaks in the NFL.
Game plan to help the athlete achieve new heights. If it's unattainable, the athlete will let you know, or as a trainer or coach, you go and have a talk with the athlete. Travis is a #1 wide receiver on offense. On defense, I would not call him an NFL shutdown corner. I would call him a chess piece you can use all over the field to help in different areas, kind of like Jalen Ramsey. In my opinion, Hunter becomes the face of sports in the biggest market, New York, drafted by the Giants. All right, so now we're going to talk about a few guys that I didn't follow them throughout their college career, but I was able to follow them through the draft process and the combine and see what the pundits had to say and evaluate their talent. Ready? Here we go. All right, defensive tackle Mason Graham from Michigan. Now, I'm a fan of disruptive defensive tackles, and that's who Graham is, a very disruptive defensive tackle. My comparison for Graham is Ndamukong Suh, but the Buccaneers version of Suh. He's a big guy, listed at 6'3", 320 pounds. He ran a 5.40 flat, which is good for a big defensive tackle. These are measurements that are close to Suh. But these guys, they are not going to get Aaron Donald or Warren Sapp type numbers as far as sack goes. But check this. when a quarterback drops back to pass, when they get to the top of their drops, they want to fire the ball. Guys like Sue and Graham disrupt that process. Either they are going to force the quarterback to move off of their spot, or they're going to push the pocket in the quarterback's face. While defensive tackles like Graham don't get double-digit sacks on a norm, they will get other pass rushers double-digit sacks because teams are going to focus on how to keep the guy pushing the pocket under wraps so the quarterback can be comfortable. I think Graham does not get past the Campbell. Let's talk about Abdul Carter. Now, I may be wrong, but I think this dude is overrated. I still think he's good, just overrated. Scouts in the league falls in love with superior athletes at edge rusher who have production in college. I'm going to run off a few names here. Kayvon Thibodeau, Chase Young, Bradley Chubb, Dante Flower Jr., Jadeveon Clowney, Deion Jordan. All of these had the same hype that Carter has coming out. They were legit athletes, but none of those guys lived up to the hype. You know the type, loud as a motorbike, but wouldn't bust a grape in a food fight. Like, nah, I don't want to apply that as soft, but most of these guys were good NFL players with good careers, but they did not live up to the hype and were overrated coming out of college. He's going to get drafted in the top 5. A lot of teams have Carter mocked to the Browns to pair him with an elite edge rusher in Myles Garrett, but the league does not work like that. There have been plenty of teams that's had an elite edge rusher in a position to draft another elite athlete. That just did not happen, especially when you're picking that high in the draft. With that, type for the deep inside Michael Parsons, someone who can play inside linebacker and rush the passer. I said reverse Michael Parsons. Michael is an edge rusher first. Campbell is an inside linebacker first. He's going to be more effective than Michael. Campbell is a better Michael is inside linebacker. The Campbell is one of the reasons why people run on the Cowboys. But I think he's going to be undervalued the same way Michael was undervalued in his draft. It could be nice because his last shot dropped when he ended his career at the time. He was good for that. More than other evaluators. Which is great for me. But I think he's a I got 2 slots. This dude is the next Rob Gronkowski. This dude is big to be running out with catch of the ball. About 6'5", 200 19 times. For those that don't know, you can press 19 times and you play a skilled position, you have to swing it down. Because most of the people that will be covering you won't be that strong. There was a drop in his sack numbers in 24. Pressures on the quarterback increased. There are off-the-field issues that are impacting the draft. Some big games harder, and we see how that worked out for the Eagles. I think the drop in the draft is going to get a heck of a chance. Maybe the Lawrence being a head coach, and Falcons being a pass for
Said to my partner, he gon' run it us some more. Training solo dolo, we been win on one accord. Who y'all think the hardest in this litty world of sport? Win the championship and why not go to Disneyland?